So far we have looked at this script. We've learned to analyze, put a breakpoint on this script and just look at, inspect some of the objects that are available here and basically question any questions you have about this code. You can try to find the answer by using breakpoint and then looking at each individual objects here, like row data, cell value, or any variable or any packages that are there, and you can look at the details of them. And you can also ask Grok, like, hey, what does a join in Python do? Or you could ask like this whole thing, how is this printing this string, and how is it manipulating those to make it look nice, like a column-like style. And I'm not sure if you've noticed, so far whenever we use breakpoint, let's say our breakpoint is here, I run this code, we are in one scope here. So basically this code goes from top to bottom. And when I say that, think of it like a musical note. So this code right now, the way it's in the IDE is, let me exit this so we are crystal clear. It's like a musical note, right? And when we go and execute this code, that's like playing that note, right? So you're executing this code line by line. Python is actually making something happen with using this code. So right now, this is just a code, but if I go and execute it, we hit this breakpoint, meaning code up to here has run. And when I said earlier this is one scope, is this code gets executed from 1 to 39 line by line. There's no difference in execution and currently how we read this code, right? So we're going to change that now. And to understand that scope, let's look at here. So let's look at target sheet, for example. You can see we have a budget request in target sheet variable. Target sheet variable references this budget request string instance in the memory, right? And we can access it even when we pause here, when we pause at the end of the script, or as long as we put a breakpoint after this line of code, we can access it anywhere here. So why am I saying that? Because that is just about to change. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy this code and go back to Grok, and we will ask, can you tidy this code up and separate it into small functions without changing the outcome, right? Just want to do that. And let's just ask Grok, right? We have code here. As you can see, it looks very different and it looks a lot cleaner. Okay, first thing, I'm going to copy this, paste it over to our code editor, and I'm just quickly going to run it and to see. So I'm just going to do this. Do that all the time. I wish there was a better way to do this. Okay, so it's doing the exact same thing, but now our code looks a lot cleaner. All right, what's happening? So we can see here lots of something called function, right? So the way you define function in Python is using def. So define, you can call it, and then load Excel file and path. So now what this function is going to do is it is going to load an Excel file and give you that object, that file object, using pandas, which is the library we imported here. And now this function does one thing. So if you had to load this file 5 times in this script, you don't have to read this line in a 5 different places. So you can just write this in this function and then call that function, and it will take it will do that every time without a problem. And then we have get sheets name. So Excel file dot sheet name. So this is unnecessary because we can just do that wherever we needed the file, right? And then yeah, I see here a lot of like one-line functions, which sometimes can be unnecessary. But the point of this video is not to write the perfect code, is to understand the code execution, right? So let's keep going. So here we have get data frame info. And earlier I mentioned, so far we've learned to inspect a variable, we've learned what a list is, how we can check if something is in the list or not, right? So we've learned that. Now we're getting into the details of dictionary. So dictionary is basically exactly like how a dictionary works. So you have a key, so the word that you're looking for a meaning of, and you find that word in the dictionary first, and then you will see a little text blob next to it, what in Python we would call that a value, and then that value is the definition of that key, right? So we can use that to store information in the computer's memory, right? So when you write a dictionary like this, so you have rows, and then we're referencing the row data here. That means every time you access this key, you get the value, which is the data, right? So it's a key value pair. And so it just get data frame info returns that. And then we have print basic info. So we have lines written here, Excel file loaded successfully, all this. And then we have print full data. So we have many methods here. Now, what I wanted to show you is, let's say, test variable, we'll just call it test, right? So now what happens when code executes is we go line by line, but these methods are only loaded into memory as we execute this code, right? They don't get executed. They only get executed when they are called here. So you can see this is what it does. This is where we define the set of instruction, like the note of the music, and then here we go and call that. And what do we call it with? The Excel file path, right? So now, how do we know that, right? So I talked about a scope before. Now, if I do a breakpoint and I run this, so this test variable is not available right now because this variable is only available within the scope of this function, right? So we can't just reference that outside of that function. And when I say reference it, is at the moment we are at this line of the execution, code execution, right? So this is where Python has paused the execution and dropped us a shell to inspect. So we don't have that. And so when will we have it? If we put a breakpoint here, then we can view this variable, right? And if we put a breakpoint here, let's say get sheet name must come after this, will we get that? So let's inspect that, okay? Let's quit, clear, and we're going to rerun this. Now we are where we were first. We don't have that. Let's continue. So we were here, right? We have not reached this code execution yet. Why? Because we call that method in here, and then we call the second method. We have breakpoint here and here. So let me continue, and we are here now. So right, so the next line is that. Let's see if we have that variable available here. Okay, we do. So test indeed is referencing just string instance in the memory. And now let's go continue again. And now let's test, do we have test here? We don't. Why is that? Again, this variable is only available within the execution scope of this method. This is how you separate things in code and you keep things um, away from each other, and you keep your code well, basically um, separation of concern, right? So you give each function one thing to do, and so if we go now continue, it should execute everything. um, and there we go, 4 rows, we executed everything. Now I hope that was helpful, um, and if it was not, I would still recommend continuing down this path because it will make sense later on. And even if I have the ordering of this function in reverse order, the calling of the function matters, right? So the this is again like a musical note, and this is where probably um, yeah, musical analogy kind of starts to not make more sense, but you are just defining these methods here. As long when they are called, that's when we are executing everything. Okay, so that's function for now, and then we will touch on dictionary, and just keep looking at this script for another video as well.